I freeze in the doorway of Salvatore's, my breath catching in my chest. 14 faces turn toward me, illuminated by the restaurant's warm lighting. Empty plates litter the white tablecloths. Wine glasses half empty. Dessert crumbs scattered across small plates. The celebration clearly winding down. My mother, wearing her favorite crimson blouse, spots me and waves casually. "Oh, Marin, you finally made it." The restaurant hums with ambient chatter around us. But at our table, a sudden silence falls. I check my watch. 7:05 p.m. My pulse quickens as confusion gives way to understanding. I thought dinner was at 6:30. I say, still standing awkwardly at the edge of their table, clutching my purse. My legs feel wooden, refusing to carry me the rest of the way. Dad dabs his mouth with a cloth napkin. "We moved it up to 5. "Didn't Mom tell you?" Mother shrugs. The diamond anniversary bracelet Dad must have given her tonight, catching the light. "Mentioned it might change. Besides, we didn't really expect you to make it, honey. You're always so busy." The words hit like ice water. I'd confirmed the time twice today. Once this morning before work, and again at lunch when Mother called to remind me not to be late. "You never mentioned changing the time," I say, quietly aware of other diners glancing our way. A server approaches with a sympathetic smile, but retreats when he reads the tension. Just this morning, I'd rearranged my entire schedule to make it here on time for my parents' 32nd anniversary dinner. Then the Peterson account exploded at 4:15. A shipment misdirected to Tulsa instead of Tampa. As logistics manager, the crisis landed squarely on my shoulders. Still, I'd managed to resolve it and race across town through rush hour traffic. Like always being responsible, showing up the story of my life. Bryn, my younger sister, smirks from her seat, beside Mother, her third glass of wine judging by the flesh in her cheeks. "Want my picked over salad and breadsticks?" There might be a cold meatball left, too. The table titters. Uncle Ron snorts into his espresso. Now Bryn. Mother chides without conviction. Her attention shifts back to me as she reaches into her purse. "But since you're here, your timing is actually perfect." She pulls out a folded paper. The crease is crisp and deliberate. Extends it toward me, like a peace offering. I take it automatically. A receipt. I unfold it slowly, the paper trembling between my fingers. $1, $72,043. "We figured you'd be happy to cover it," Mother says with that familiar smile. The one that isn't really asking, since you missed the dinner itself. The restaurant suddenly feels too warm, too small. 3 years of paying their mortgage when Dad lost his job covering Bryn's rent when she found herself after college. The down payment on Dad's new car last spring. The family vacations I fund but somehow never quite make it onto. My hands stop trembling. I look up and meet 14 pairs of expectant eyes. Family tradition. Marin pays. Marin provides. Marin never complains. Deliberately, I tear the receipt in half. Then quarters, then A's. The pieces flutter onto the table like confetti. Bryn laughs nervously. Looks like our VIP sponsor's having a moment. The table erupts in awkward laughter. Cousin Paige whispers something to Aunt Louise. Dad's face darkens with anger. "Marin," he starts, his voice carrying that warning tone I've heard since childhood. But something has shifted inside me. Something fundamental and irreversible. I've spent years trying to buy their love, their approval, their inclusion. And here I stand, excluded anyway, useful only for my wallet. I turn without a word and walk out of Salvatore. My steps quicken as I push through the heavy doors. Behind me, the laughter dies into stunned silence. For the first time in my adult life, I don't look back. 20 minutes later, I slam my apartment door hard enough that the framed logistics certification on the wall rattles. My hands still tremble with adrenaline as I drop my purse on the entry table, kick off my sensible heels, and slump against the wall. The restaurant scene plays on repeat in my mind. 14 faces staring expectantly at me, waiting for me to fulfill my usual role. Marin the provider. Marin the checkbook. The thought propels me toward my home office. I need evidence. I need to see the pattern laid bare. In the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet sits a manila folder labeled Family Assistance. The crisp organization inside, receipts neatly filed by date. Bank statements highlighted in yellow. Canceled checks in chronological order reflects the logistics manager in me. As I spread the documents across my desk, the full scope of my financial entanglement with my family unfolds before me. 3 years of mortgage payments when Dad lost his job at the architectural firm. Bryn's rent for that overpriced downtown apartment while she found herself post-college. Dad's new Buick last spring. Mom's dental work Christmas gifts for everyone, birthday presents, emergency home repairs. I grab a legal pad and start tallying. The numbers climb steadily, each addition making my stomach clench tighter. When I reach the final sum, I physically recoil from the page. $47,382.17, nearly $50,000 in 3 years. The realization hits me with physical force. I rush to the bathroom and barely make it before my lunch resurfaces. Kneeling on the cold tile floor, I wipe my mouth with the back of my hand and try to steady my breathing. This wasn't just about dinner. This wasn't a one-time slight. This was calculated, systematic, intentional. Back at my desk, I sort through more statements. A peculiar charge from last February catches my eye. A vacation package to Scottsdale, 4 airline tickets, 4 nights at a resort, golf fees, spa treatments. I have no memory of this trip because I wasn't invited. I paid for a family vacation I wasn't even told about. The betrayal is so profound it makes me lightheaded. I sink into my chair, the room spinning slightly. All these years, I thought I was supporting being the responsible daughter, the good sister, the family rock. But they never saw me as family at all. Just an ATM with legs. My fingers move mechanically through digital statements. Now I pull up my retirement account. The balance sits at $18,452. Pathetically low for someone my age because I've been diverting funds to family emergencies. My savings account shows a similar story. The personal vacation to Quebec I'd been planning for 3 years. Canceled last summer, and Bryn needed money for car repairs. Your sister really needs this. Marin, Mom had said you can always go next year. Next year never seems to arrive for me. The stark financial reality lays out the consequences in black and white. If I continue this pattern, I'll work until I'm 80. No home of my own, no retirement security, no life beyond funding theirs. My phone buzzes on the desk. A text from Mom. You embarrassed us tonight. Call me when you're ready to apologize. Something crystallizes inside me. A hardening. A shift so fundamental I can almost hear it click into place. I power up my laptop and log into my online banking. First, I cancel all automatic transfers to my parents' accounts. Next, I remove Bryn as an authorized user on my backup credit card. Then I create a new spreadsheet titled Financial Independence Plan and outline aggressive savings goals for the next 6 months. My phone buzzes again, Dad, this time your mother is very upset. This is no way to treat family. Family. The word now feels hollow, stripped of meaning. Without hesitation, I block his number. Then, Mom's, then Bryn's. One by one, I block every family member who sat at that table tonight, watching me be humiliated, waiting for me to pay their bill. The apartment falls into complete silence. No more buzzing, no more demands. The quiet wraps around me, not comforting exactly, but definitive. Final. As I sit alone in my suddenly quiet apartment that night, I wonder if cutting off my family completely is the right approach. Would maintaining some boundaries while keeping minimal contact be wiser than total separation, or was a clean break the only way to truly heal? The question hangs in the air unanswered. But for the first time in years, the decision is mine alone to make. 2 weeks later, Ava Middleton's number flashes on my phone screen for the 3rd time this week. We haven't spoken since high school graduation 15 years ago, but suddenly she's determined to reconnect. I let it ring through to voicemail and continue organizing the stack of bills on my kitchen table. Marin, it's Ava again. Her voice fills my apartment as the message plays automatically. Your mom asked me to check on you. Everyone's worried about your situation. Call me back. Okay. My situation, right? I delete the message and add Ava to my blocked list. The 12th name. This month, 2 weeks after walking out of Salvatore's The Family Storytelling Machine is working overtime. According to my cousin's wife's Facebook post, I'm having a nervous breakdown from work stress. Uncle Ron told his golf buddies I'm struggling with female problems. Mom's Bridge Club heard I'm going through a phase, never once mentioning the $47,000 I've given them over 3 years. The doorbell rings. I freeze, holding my breath through the peephole. I spot Mrs. Henshaw from 4B. Not another family ambush. I exhale slowly and open the door. Mail mix-up again, she says, handing me an envelope. This one's yours. I thank her and retreat back inside, turning the envelope over in my hands. The Chase Bank logo stares back at me. Another one. I've stopped opening these immediately. The racing heart, the sweaty palms, the tightness in my chest that follows isn't worth it. Last week's letter informed me my credit score had dropped 85 points. The week before, a notification about a credit limit decrease on my MasterCard. I've started dreading the mail jumping when my phone rings, avoiding my email. I slide the envelope into a growing pile on my counter and turn back to my laptop. The spreadsheet I've been building glows on the screen. A meticulous record of every dollar I've given my family. Column A date. Column B amount. Column C supposed purpose. Column D actual use when I could verify it. Column E whether I was thanked. Column E is mostly empty. The largest single entry stares back at me. $8,700 for Dad's emergency dental work that somehow coincided with the delivery of his new golf clubs. Below it, 22 separate entries for Bryn's rent until she gets back on her feet. She's been getting back on her feet for 3 years now. My phone buzzes with a calendar reminder. Family Labor Day. Picnic 2 weeks. The annual gathering where attendance is mandatory and bringing an expensive dish is expected. Last year, I contributed a honey-baked ham, 3 side dishes, and 2 desserts. Bryn brought paper plates and took home all the leftovers. I delete the reminder with a sharp tap. A knock at my door makes me jump again. This time, I don't check the peephole. A mistake. I swing it open, ready to snap at Mrs. Henshaw. Instead, Theo Ramsey stands there holding a paper bag from Antonio's and a book tucked under his arm. Bad time? He asks, taking in my expression. Theo and I met in college. He's now a corporate attorney with a corner office downtown, but still drives the same beat-up Volvo and wears faded concert t-shirts on weekends. We've maintained our friendship through career changes and his divorce 3 years ago. Sorry. I step back. Thought you were someone else. Your sister. He knows the situation. The only person I've told the full story to could have been any of them at this point. I motion him inside. What's all this? He sets the bag on my counter, careful to avoid the pile of unopened mail, that legal thriller you mentioned wanting to read. He places the book beside the bag and take out from Antonio's cried. Sometimes silence is better with company. For the first time in weeks, I feel the corners of my mouth lift into something resembling a smile. We eat pasta at my kitchen table, carefully avoiding the topic of my family while Theo tells me about his latest case. He doesn't ask why half my mail is unopened or why my phone keeps buzzing with calls I refuse to answer. The quiet acceptance in his presence loosens something tight in my chest. Later, as we're finishing the tiramisu, I actually laugh at his story about a witness who showed up to court in pajama pants. The sound surprises me, rusty and unfamiliar. 3 months pass this way. I decline 4 family invitations, block 17 more phone numbers, and fill my spreadsheet with 3 more years of financial data. I've meticulously reconstructed. Then, on a Tuesday morning in October, my phone rings with an unfamiliar number. I almost send it to voicemail, but the area code matches Chase Bank's customer service line. Miss Beckett, a woman's voice asks when I answer. This is Diane Reynolds from Chase Bank's fraud department. Do you have a moment to discuss some potentially unauthorized activity on your account? My stomach drops. What account? The Chase Sapphire Reserve card opened in your name 6 months ago. We're seeing some concerning patterns with the most recent charges and wanted to verify. I don't have a Chase Sapphire card. I interrupt, my voice surprisingly steady. A pause. According to our records, a card was opened in your name, with your social security number on the 20th last month. The current balance is $18,900. The room seems to tilt slightly, but instead of panic, a strange calm settles over me. That's identity theft, I say quietly. I never authorized that card. As Diane details the investigation process, I open my laptop and search my email. Nothing from Chase about a new card. I ask where statements have been sent. The paperless billing is directed to an email address bj.beckett94@gmail.com. Bringen. Beckett born in 1994. And the mailing address she reads my parents' address. When the call ends, I sit motionless at my kitchen table. The realization crystallizes. This was never about money. It was about respect, about autonomy, about whether I had the right to say no. I call Theo immediately. I need your help, I tell him when he answers. No preamble, no apology for calling during work hours. What's happened? His voice shifts instantly, from casual to professional. I explain the situation in clear, concise sentences, my voice growing stronger with each detail. When I finish, he doesn't question whether I might be overreacting or suggest I talk to my family first, unlike what my family would have done. I'll be there in 30 minutes with the paperwork. He says, "This is identity theft, Marin. It's a federal crime." For the next week, Theo and I compile evidence. The credit card application linked to Brin's email, shipping addresses for purchases sent to my parents' house. The suspicious timing the card opened 2 days after I walked out of Salvatore's Primes. The Chase Fraud Department flags patterns that match known family fraud cases. Same billing address as the victim's relatives. Gradual spending increases. Luxury purchases mixed with everyday items to avoid triggering alerts. By Friday, we have everything we need. A comprehensive file documenting each fraudulent charge, copies of the credit application, and a draft police report ready to file. I close my laptop and look at Theo. I'm ready. For the first time in months, I get in my car and enter my parents' address into the GPS. As I drive across town, my hands steady on the wheel, I realize I'm no longer afraid of what comes next. They wanted access to my money without limits. Instead, they're about to learn about consequences. 30 minutes later, my knuckles turn white around the steering wheel as I pull into my parents' driveway. The familiar red brick colonial looks smaller somehow. Weeks of distance has changed my perspective on more than just the house. Beside me, Theo arranges the paperwork in a leather portfolio. Remember, stay calm and stick to facts. They'll try to make this emotional. I nod, swallowing hard against the tightness in my throat. The manila folder on my lap contains printouts from Chase's fraud department, account statements, transaction records and the smoking gun, a credit application with my forged signature. My heart pounds against my ribs, but my hands have stopped shaking. The front door opens before we reach the porch. Mother stands in the doorway, arms crossed over her floral blouse. Her forced smile falters when she notices Theo. "Marin, honey. We weren't expecting visitors." Her eyes dart between us. "Who's your friend?" "This is Theo Ramsey. He's an attorney." I keep my voice level. "We need to talk, all of us." Dad appears behind her, wiping his hands on a dish towel. About what exactly identity theft and credit card fraud? Their expressions shift in tandem. Surprise, confusion, then practiced innocence. Dad ushers us into the living room, where Bryn sprawls on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. She glances up, rolling her eyes when she sees me. "The prodigal daughter returns," she mutters. I sit across from them, placing the folder on the coffee table. Theo remains standing, his presence a silent fortress at my back. Last month, someone opened a credit card in my name. I slide the account statements toward them. The card was sent to this address and linked to Bryn's email. It currently has an unpaid balance of $18,900. Mother laughs nervously. There must be some mistake. No mistake. I open the folder wider, revealing the transaction history. Opened 2 days after the dinner incident. She flushes, red eyes darting to our parents. Dad leans forward to examine the documents, his confident smile fading as he flips through the pages. You never used to worry about money, he says finally. What happened to family, helping family? This isn't help. It's theft. Mother reaches for my hand. I pull back before she can touch me. Sweetie, we thought you wouldn't mind, she whispers. After that scene at Salvatore's, we figured you needed time to cool off. And we did need a few things. $18,000 worth of things. My voice rises despite my best efforts. Dad's face hardens. You have a good job. You can handle it. Maybe this will teach you not to walk out on family. The admission hangs in the air between us. I reach slowly into my pocket. Stop the recording app on my phone and place it on the table. Dad's eyes widen as understanding dawn. You just admitted to knowingly committing fraud. Theo speaks, for the first time his tone professionally detached. That's a federal crime with potential prison time. Bryn launches to her feet. You can't be serious. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other, I say quietly. Silence stretches between us, taut as a wire. When my father essentially admitted to identity theft, I had to decide whether to give them one last chance to make things right or proceed immediately with legal action. Family ties run deep, but so does this, betrayal. What would be your next move in this moment? The question hangs in my mind as I watch their faces. Mother's pleading eyes. Dad's clenched jaw, Bryn's panicked expression. 3 people who share my blood, but treat me like an ATM. Here's what happens next, I tell them. My voice steady. Theo has prepared a formal demand letter. He removes a document from his portfolio and places it beside the credit statements. This letter requires full repayment of the fraudulent charges within 45 days, he explains. It outlines the potential criminal charges for identity theft and the civil lawsuit for damages we're prepared to file if payment isn't received. Mother gasps. You would sue your own parents. You would steal from your own daughter. I count her. Dad snatches the letter, scanning it with growing alarm. This is ridiculous. We can't come up with this kind of money in 45 days. You came up with ways to spend it in less time than that. The facade crumbles completely. Then Mother begins to cry, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Dad's face flushes dark red. We're your family, he growls. You don't threaten family and you don't rob family, I reply, standing 45 days. Over the next week, the messages pour in voicemails from Mother, alternating between tearful pleas and cutting accusations. Text messages from Bryn claiming I'm destroying their lives. Dad sends a single email with the subject line, "You'll regret this." Uncle Ron calls to tell me I'm breaking my mother's heart. Cousin Paige suggests I need therapy for my obvious issues with family loyalty. Each message more desperate than the last. A week later, Mother's latest text glows on my phone screen. You're ruining this family over a little money. Is that really what you want your legacy to be? I show it to Theo over coffee at my kitchen table. 38 days remain until the deadline. They're panicking, he says. That's good. It means they know you're serious. I stare out the window at the spring rain pattering against the glass. Do you think they'll actually pay? He considers this, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. They will, if they believe the alternative is worse. I nod, feeling strangely hollow. The anger that carried me through that confrontation has ebbed, leaving behind a cold clarity. This isn't about money anymore. It never was. What if they don't, I ask, then we follow through, Theo says simply, and you finally stop being the family credit union. The rain beats harder against the window, washing everything clean. A month later, while I'm still waiting for my family to return money, Mother appears in the doorway of my office like an apparition. Her crimson blouse, the same one from that anniversary dinner 3 months ago, stands out against the beige walls of Marshall Logistics. My coworkers glance up with curious expressions as she makes her way toward my desk, her eyes already glistening with strategic tears. "Marin," she whispers loud enough for nearby colleagues to hear. "We need to talk, honey." I continue typing, my email fingers steady on the keyboard. "I'm working, Mother." She clutches her purse against her chest, the diamond anniversary bracelet catching the fluorescent light. "It's about family loyalty," she says, voice trembling. "Your grandparents would be rolling in their graves if they knew what you're doing to us." The familiar guilt tactic slides off me like rain on waxed canvas. I save my document, lock my computer screen, and stand. Let's talk outside. In the parking lot, away from prying eyes, Mother shifts tactics. Her tears vanish, replaced by cold calculation. "I've already told Aunt Louise about your breakdown," she announces. "By next week, everyone in the family will know you're destroying us financially. Is that what? You want to be the villain at every gathering for the rest of your life?" I unlock my car, retrieve a manila folder, and hand it to her. "Open it." Inside lies the draft police report. Theo prepared, complete with transaction records, account numbers, and sworn statements from the fraud department at Chase. Every detail of the credit card they opened in my name documented in black and white. I'm not the one who committed a federal crime. I say, my voice steady as a surgeon's hand. "You have 72 hours left before this becomes official." The clock started ticking the moment you walked into my workplace. Mother's face drains of color. "You wouldn't dare." "I already did." I take the folder back. 3 days, Mother. That's all you have left." She opens her mouth, closes it, then hurries to her car without another word. For the next 3 days, I check my accounts hourly. Dad calls 17 times. I send each one to voicemail. Bryn texts accusations about loyalty and family responsibility. I read them without responding. On day 43 of our 45-day deadline, the notification appears on my phone while I'm eating lunch at my desk. A Venmo transfer from Richard Beckett, $18,900. The message field contains 4 words. This should end it. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement, a dismissal. My phone immediately lights up with texts from Bryn. "Thanks a lot. Dad had to cash out his retirement account early. You, happy now I can't even qualify for a car loan because of your little temper tantrum. Hope you enjoy your blood money." I set down my sandwich and open my laptop. With calm, deliberate keystrokes, I log into my Chase account and pay off the fraudulent card in full. Then I call the customer service line and request the account be permanently closed. I'd also like documentation that this was reported as fraud. I tell the representative and confirmation that it won't appear on my credit report. When that's complete, I draft a single email address to Mother, Dad, and Bryn. I have paid the fraudulent debt in full and closed the account. I have also prepared legal documentation of your actions, which has been placed in secure storage with my attorney. This documentation will remain private unless you attempt to contact me again or open any accounts in my name. Our business is concluded. I sign it simply Marin. Then I block their email addresses one by one. 2 weeks pass in blessed silence. Through mutual friends, I hear rumors that Bryn has taken 2 part-time jobs at the mall. Dad has started fishing again, something he claimed he couldn't afford when asking for money last summer. Mother tells relatives I'm having emotional problems and have abandoned the family during a difficult time. Let them talk. The truth sits in my bank account and my credit report in the stack of documents Theo helped me prepare. The elegant cream envelope arrives in Tuesday's mail. I recognize Cousin Paige's handwriting immediately. The sloping letters formed in careful calligraphy. Inside gold-embossed lettering announces her wedding next month at Lakeside Gardens. The entire family will be there. I hold the invitation to the light, feeling its weight, its expectation. The RSVP card waits for my decision. The old Marin would have marked attending without hesitation, would have bought an expensive gift, would have stood awkwardly in the corner while everyone whispered about her. I set the invitation on my kitchen counter and pour a glass of wine. The choice before me feels monumental, yet surprisingly easy. For the first time in my life, I understand that some invitations are better left unanswered. The RSVP card sits untouched as evening falls bathed in golden light from my kitchen window, a relic from a life I no longer recognize as mine. My apartment feels different now. Sunlight streams through windows no longer hidden behind heavy burgundy drapes, but framed with light linen curtains that billow gently in the spring breeze. 6 months have passed since I walked out of Salvatore's ass. And the world hasn't ended. Quite the opposite. I check my bank statement, a ritual that once filled me with dread. The numbers align now, predictable and comforting. My savings account shows a healthy balance, enough for a down payment on a small home if I wanted. The Montreal trip brochure sits on my coffee table. No longer a fantasy, but a scheduled reality for next month. First-time home buyers often overlook property tax implications. I tell Zoe, a young accountant I've been mentoring. We sit in a coffee shop downtown, her notebook filled with questions about financial boundaries. Learning to say no saved my retirement fund. It might save your sanity, too. She nods, scribbling frantically. But what if they make you feel guilty? That feeling belongs to them, not you, I answer, surprised by how easily the words come now. Later that evening at Harold and Jean's dinner party, someone brings up my parents. Weren't their anniversaries always at Salvatore's? Are you invited at the celebration this year? The table goes quiet. These friends know something changed, but not the details. 6 months ago, this question would have sent me spiraling, searching for an acceptable lie. We have different views on family obligations, I say simply. Buttering a dinner roll. The seared scallops are excellent tonight, Jean. No trembling hands, no racing heart, just a fact stated without shame or guilt. Conversations swirl around me and I participate fully present in a way I never could be when constantly calculating what my family might need next. The following Saturday, Theo arrives carrying a bottle of sparkling cider. Lisa and Devon, friends who stood by me through everything, bring homemade pasta and chocolate cake. My small dining table feels just right for the 4 of us to chosen family. Theo raises his glass, his eyes meeting mine briefly. And healthy boundaries, Lisa adds with a knowing smile. We clink glasses and eat until our sides ache from laughing at Devon's workplace stories. Nobody asks for money. Nobody makes me feel small. The evening ends without a single moment of anxiety. That evening, I pull up the application for the Senior Operations Director position at work. The job description feels like it was written for me. I complete the form methodically, attaching my updated resume. After submitting it, I browse listings for starter homes in neighborhoods I've always admired. My phone chimes with an email notification from my mother. The subject line reads, "Family responsibility. Please read." I hover my finger over it for a moment, remembering the weight of those words. Then I delete it without opening it. No anger, no guilt, just a quiet certainty. As I close my laptop that evening, I wonder if there's ever a point where family reconciliation becomes possible after such a fundamental breach of trust, or if some relationships are healthier when viewed through the rearview mirror. What would you do? Attempt reconciliation someday, or keep driving forward without looking. Story 2. I clutch grandmother Laya's hank-knit scarf, rubbing the soft yarn between my fingers as if somehow the texture might summon her spirit back. The funeral parlor smells like artificial flowers and furniture polish. I've tucked myself away in the corner chair, watching my family perform their version of grief. Mom dabbles at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, letting out occasional theatrical sobs that echo against the mahogany paneling. Every few minutes she slips to the bathroom, emerging with freshly applied mascara and her phone clutched in her perfectly manicured hand. The soft click of her camera captures her sorrowful pose beside the gleaming casket for her social media followers. "This lighting is terrible," she mutters, reviewing the photos. Dad stands near the entrance, his voice rising as he argues with the funeral director. "These charges are completely unreasonable," he snaps, tapping furiously at his phone screen. My stock alerts don't stop just because he glances around, lowering his voice. Just because we're having a family situation, a family situation. That's what death is to my father. An inconvenient interruption to checking his investment portfolio. My brother Cole slouches in a chair across the room, head bent over his phone thumb, scrolling endlessly. The glow from his cryptocurrency app reflects in his glasses. He hasn't looked up in 20 minutes, not even when distant relatives approach to offer condolences. I close my eyes and remember the weekends at Grandma and Grandpa's house. The smell of cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings. Grandpa Walter teaching me to change the oil in his first delivery truck. His hands steady as they guided mine. "Hadley girl," he'd say, "knowing how things work matters more than knowing how to buy new ones." A tear slides down my cheek. A real one. Later, we gather in Aaron Feldman's office, the family attorney's wood-paneled sanctuary lined with leather-bound law books and the faint scent of pipe tobacco. Mom immediately claims the central chair, arranging herself like she's posing for a portrait. Dad stands behind her, hands on the chair back, assuming the position of authority. I was thinking we could list the Harbor House immediately. Mom says, inspecting her nails. The market's peaking, and that view will fetch a premium. The boat should sell quickly too. Dad adds, nodding, and those antiques. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Cole interrupts, actually looking up from his phone. I've already got buyers interested in Grandpa's truck fleet. My startup could use that capital. Aaron clears his throat, silencing the vultures. He looks at me briefly, something unreadable flickering across his face. He pulls out a thick document, placing it deliberately on his desk. As executive of Walter and Leah, Monroe's estate, he begins, his voice formal. I'm required to read their final wishes exactly as written. My family leans forward expectantly. Aaron adjusts his glasses and begins reading, his tone measured and precise. Legal phrases wash over us until he reaches the critical line. He pauses, takes a breath, and continues. I hereby bequeath my entire estate, valued at approximately $31.5 million, to my granddaughter, Hadley Elizabeth Martin. The silence that follows feels like the moment before a storm. I blink, certain I've misheard the entire estate. Dad repeats, his voice dangerously quiet. There must be some mistake. Mom says, her social media smile vanishing. Cole stands abruptly. What did you do? He demands, glaring at me. How did you manipulate them? The accusation stings worse than if he'd slapped me. I didn't. My voice catches. I had no idea. Aaron raises his hand for silence, then reaches for his computer. Walter and Leah anticipated your reaction. They prepared this. He turns the screen toward us. Grandma and Grandpa appear sitting together on their porch swing. They look tired, but resolute. If you're watching this, Grandpa begins, then our decision has come as a shock to some of you. Grandma's gentle voice continues. Gregory Serena Cole. We've watched how you speak about us when you think we're not listening, how you plan for our money while we're still living. My throat tightens as memories flood back. Being dropped off at their modest-looking home, which apparently concealed millions, while my parents attended networking events. Teenage me helping Grandpa maintain his small fleet of trucks that were apparently the Bruth foundation of a shipping empire. Grandma teaching me to bake, to garden, to live with purpose rather than pretense. Hadley is the only one who ever loved us for ourselves. Grandma says, her eyes welling not for what we could give her. The video ends. Aaron closes his laptop with quiet finality. In the parking lot, Dad corners me against my car, his breath hot on my face. You'll transfer control to me tomorrow, he says, voice low and dangerous. You can keep 12%. Darling Momus appearing at his side. Her concern is manufactured as her grief. This kind of money requires experience to manage. You simply aren't equipped. Cole looms behind them. Remember what family loyalty means. Hadley. Remember who takes care of who. I grip my keys tightly, feeling the metal bite into my palm. I need time to think. I manage. Voice trembling but firm. Dad's face darkens. Remember who owns your apartment building. Hadley, remember who can make one phone call and leave you homeless. They walk away, a united front of entitlement. I stand, frozen keys digging into my skin, the weight of $31 million, and my grandparents' trust pressing down on me like a physical force. That night, I pace my tiny studio apartment, panic clawing at my chest. Everything I own fits in this room. My life as a school counselor barely covers rent. I have no savings, no backup plan. I sink onto my bed, fingers still clutching Grandma's scarf when a pounding at my door makes me jump. Management inspection. A gruff voice calls. My phone rings. Aaron's name flashes on the screen. Hadley, he says urgently when I answer. They're planning to lock you out. It's illegal, but they might try. You need to leave now. Tears blur my vision as I throw essential items into a backpack, my hands shaking so badly I can barely zip it closed. I never imagined that inheriting a fortune would leave me feeling more vulnerable than I've ever been in my life. But as I grab Grandma's scarf and wrap it around my neck, her voice seems to whisper in my ear, "You're ground, Hadley girl. Some things are worth fighting for." The following day, rain pelts the windshield as I pull up to Grandma and Grandpa's gig harbor home. The sprawling craftsman sits back from the road, wrapped in cedar and stone, modest in design, despite its waterfront location. Nothing like the gleaming modern mansions that have sprung up around it over the decades. I sit in the car watching raindrops race down the glass, my heart hammering against my ribs. 24 hours ago, I was fleeing my apartment with a backpack of essentials. Now I'm about to enter a house worth millions that somehow belongs to me. The front door opens before I reach it. Miguel Alvarez stands in the entryway, his weathered face solemn. For 15 years, he's managed this estate, becoming more family than employee. "Miss Hadley," his voice breaks slightly. "Welcome home." I step inside, dripping onto the worn oak floors. The house smells like lemon oil and cinnamon, just as it always has. "Your grandmother asked me to give you this." Miguel extends a small brass key. If things went this way, he leads me to Grandpa's study, where a heavy antique desk dominates the room. The key fits a bottom drawer, revealing a weathered leather journal bound with a faded ribbon. "She said you would understand when the time came." Miguel squeezes my shoulder before leaving me alone. I curl into Grandpa's reading chair by the fireplace, tucking my feet beneath me as I open the journal. The first entry is dated 10 years ago. Gregory came today asking for another loan. Claimed his investment was guaranteed to triple within months. When Walter hesitated, he reminded us how expensive Cole's college tuition is becoming. We wrote the check. Walter suspects we won't see that money again. My stomach tightens. I flip forward several months. Gregory hasn't mentioned repayment. When I asked, he acted as if I'd forgotten he'd already repaid us. Walter says to let it go. It's only money, he says, but it's the pattern that worries me. I turn page after page, my fingers trembling. Serena brought designers to help update the house today. They measured rooms and took photos while she pointed out how tired everything looks. Later, I caught her photographing the silver service from Walter's mother. She jumped when she saw me, saying she wanted inspiration for her anniversary party. Decorations. The door kicks open. June Porter, housekeeper for over 20 years, enters with a tray of tea. Her eyes are red-rimmed. "You're reading Mrs. Laya's journals." It's not a question. "Did you know about all this?" I gesture to the open pages. June sets down the tray. "I kept records of my own. Mrs. Leia asked me to." She disappears, returning with a banker's box. Financial documents. Loan agreements your father never repaid. Startup proposals from your brother, all defaulted. She places a thick folder on top. "And these are copies of property transfer documents your mother tried to get Miss Leia to sign 3 months before she passed. Claimed they were updated estate plans recommended by their advisor." I spread the papers across the desk. Thousands of dollars funneled to Dad's failing ventures. Cole's repeated requests for seed money that never produced results. Mom's attempted property transfers that would have quietly moved ownership before death. They were bleeding them dry. I whisper, "For years," June confirms. "Your grandfather insisted on believing the best of his son. Your grandmother was more clear-eyed." I find an entry from Christmas 2 years ago. Cole had too much wine at dinner. When he thought Walter and I had gone to bed, I overheard him telling Gregory, "When the old folks die, we're set for life." Gregory laughed. Our grandson laughed about our deaths. My throat constricts. I remember that Christmas I'd worked double shifts to afford the train ticket home. Mom complained about my shabby sweater at dinner while Cole showed off his new designer watch. The doorbell rings. June glances at her watch. That'll be Mr. Shaw and Miss Park. Marcus Shaw enters first, carrying a leather portfolio, his normally composed face tense. As Grandpa's financial advisor for 20 years, he's the only one who truly understood the extent of their wealth. "Hadley," he says, taking my hand, "I've brought the complete portfolio. You need to understand what you're protecting." Evelyn Park follows, her silver hair pulled back severely. Grandpa's business partner at Summit Freight for 3 decades. She carries a stack of company records. Summit employees are reporting strange visitors asking questions about shipping routes and client contracts. She says without preamble, "Someone's digging." Aaron arrives last. Legal documents tucked under his arm. "I've prepared preliminary protective measures. We need to move quickly." They gather around the dining room table, forming a circle of protection I never knew I'd need. Each brings a piece of the puzzle, revealing the empire my grandparents built and how methodically my family has tried to dismantle it. My phone buzzes. Dad's voice fills the speaker when I play the voicemail. "You have no idea what you're up against, Hadley. This can still end with everyone happy, or it can get very ugly. Your choice." While we're strategizing, the doorbell rings again. A courier delivers a manila envelope with no return address. Inside are my childhood photos with faces crossed out in red marker. "This is escalating quickly," Aaron says, bagging the photos as evidence. Summit employees are reporting strange visitors. "Your brother has started posting about your mental instability online. Your mother has called your workplace with family concerns." My hand shakes as I set down my teacup. "What do we do?" "File for emergency protective orders," Aaron says, pulling out prepared documents. "The evidence is overwhelming. Judge Carter will approve them immediately." "There's something else," June says. "Miss Laya set aside the cottage in Port Orchard in a separate trust. It's not part of the main estate. Somewhere safe if you need it. I think about my students, the kids who count on me showing up every day. I'll need to take a leave of absence from work." The weight of it all suddenly crashes down. I walk to Grandma's garden, now glistening with rain. Her roses will bloom soon without her to see them. "I never wanted their money," I whisper to the wet earth. "I just wanted them." But as I look back at the house where my unexpected allies wait, I realize Grandma and Grandpa gave me more than money. They gave me the truth and people who will help me protect it. 3 days into my new old home, my morning coffee goes cold as I stare at the newspaper. The headline glares back. "Family contest, suspicious inheritance." My hand trembles as I scan quotes from unnamed family sources claiming Grandma Laya suffered from diminished capacity during her final months. They're really doing this. I whisper to the empty kitchen. My phone buzzes with a text from Aaron. Gregory filed an emergency petition with the court. Claims Laya was mentally incompetent when signing the will. Call me claims Leia. Before I can dial, a notification pops up. Mom's smiling face fills my screen. In a screenshot from the local morning show where she dabbed theatrical tears while describing her concerns about elder exploitation, the caption reads, "Heartbroken daughter speaks out about suspected elder abuse. The walls of Grandpa and Grandma's house. My house now seemed to press inward." I set the phone down, breathing deeply the way I tell my students to when anxiety overwhelms them. Miguel knocks gently before entering. Miss Hadley, you should see this. He hands me his tablet open to a social media page Cole created overnight. Justice for the Monroe Legacy. Already 400 followers. People I've known my entire life commenting about their concerns. Summit Freight called. Miguel adds, his weathered face solemn. 3 clients received anonymous letters questioning the company's stability. They're attacking from every angle. My voice sounds distant, unfamiliar. Your grandfather anticipated this. Miguel gestures toward the study. Perhaps it's time you saw his business journals. In the oak-paneled study that still smells faintly of Grandpa's pipe tobacco, I open the leather-bound journal from 1987, the year Summit Freight nearly went bankrupt during the recession. Grandpa's neat handwriting fills the page. Third Bank rejected our loan application today. Laya says we should sell the house. I won't risk our home. When might? Everyone says you'll fail. That's when you find your backbone. Tomorrow I'll speak with the drivers about a temporary pay arrangement until we weather this. I touch the page, feeling the indentations his pen made decades ago. The words blur as tears well up. There's more, Miguel says, opening Grandma's desk drawer. He removes a small USB drive. Mrs. Leia installed security cameras last year. She never told your parents. On Grandpa's computer I watch footage, dated the day of the funeral. Dad and Cole methodically moving through rooms, checking values on their phones, wrapping smaller items in their coats before leaving. Mom photographing silver and antiques, wiping away fake tears between shots. They were stealing, I whisper, while pretending to grieve. Mrs. Leia knew. She kept records of everything. The security system chimes, interrupting us. Miguel checks his phone. They're at the gates, all of them. My heart hammers against my ribs as I move to the front window. 3 vehicles idle outside the wrought iron gates. Dad's Mercedes, Mom's Range Rover, Cole's Tesla. Should I call Aaron? Miguel asks. I straighten my shoulders, remembering Grandpa's words. Finding your backbone. No, I'll handle this. The intercom crackles. Dad's voice professional and commanding. Hadley, open the gates. We're here to collect family heirlooms that rightfully belong to all of us. I press the speaker button. I'll meet you at the front steps. Summer sun beats down as I stand alone on the wide limestone steps. The gates swing open automatically. I want witnesses to whatever happens next. Dad strides forward, first briefcase in hand, expression controlled but eyes flickering with calculation. Mom follows, camera ready, in a tasteful black dress, while Cole lingers slightly behind, shoulders hunched. This has gone far enough, Dad announces, projecting his voice like he's addressing a boardroom. We're here for Great G, Grandmother's silver service and the Tiffany lamps to start for that. Those items were specifically listed in the will as part of my inheritance. I say, my voice steadier than I feel. A will we're contesting, Mom interjects, her practice concerns slipping. Sweetheart, you're in over your head. Let us help manage things until the courts sort this out. Cole steps forward, suddenly attempting to move past me up the stairs. I'll just grab my stuff from my old room while we're... He freezes as lights flash, and a low hum fills the air. The new security system Aaron installed activates. Red indicator lights blinking along the perimeter. Trespassing prevention measures. I explain quietly. The property is now monitored by multiple cameras streaming to a secure server. Mom gasps dramatically, clutching her chest before slowly sinking onto the manicured lawn. My own daughter. Treating family like criminals. The crunch of gravel announces new arrivals. Miguel approaches from the side of the house, carrying a leather binder. Miss Hadley, I've brought the complete inventory of household items as you requested with Providence documentation. Miss Hadley. June's compact figure appears next, her gray hair neatly pinned back. I witnessed them taking items after the service. She announces loudly, I've provided a sworn statement to Mr. Feldman. A silver sedan pulls up behind my family's vehicles, Evelyn Park. Grandpa's business partner of 30 years steps out, followed by 5 longtime Summit employees in company polos. We came to show support, Evelyn says clearly. Walter and Leia built this company on integrity. We stand by their wishes. Aaron's BMW glides to a stop next. He exits with a leather portfolio. Ah, perfect timing. I was just coming to update Hadley on the restraining order. But since you're all here, I can serve these papers directly. Dad's face reddens as Aaron approaches with documents. Mom remains sprawled on the grass, her theatrical collapse forgotten as she watches the growing audience with calculation in her eyes. From the street, a cluster of people gather, neighbors. Friends of my grandparents watching quietly, finding strength I didn't know I possessed. I step forward. This ends today. My voice carries across the suddenly silent driveway. Every word spoken here is being recorded. Every action filmed. You've shown who you really are, and now others are seeing it too. A news van slows at the property entrance, logo visible on its side. Who called the media? Dad snarls, his composure cracking. We did, calls Mrs. Henderson from across the street, waving her cell phone. Neighborhood watch. We look after our own. For the first time since Grandma's death, I see real fear in my father's eyes. He glances at the growing crowd, the cameras, the papers in Aaron's hand. This isn't over, he mutters, but he's already retreating toward his car. Mom miraculously recovers from her fainting spell, hurrying after him with one worried glance at the news van. Cole hesitates, looking at me directly for the first time. Something unreadable crosses his face before he follows our parents. That night, I stand alone in my grandparents' bedroom, untouched since their passing. Grandma's knitting basket sits beside her reading chair, needles protruding from an unfinished blue scarf. Grandpa's reading glasses rest on his nightstand, folded neatly beside a half-read mystery novel. The grief I've been holding at bay crashes over me. I sink onto the edge of their bed, clutching one of Grandma's knitting needles. I don't know if I can be what they believed I could be. I whisper into the emptiness. Dawn finds me still there, watching light gradually filter through lace curtains. Grandma made herself. Something settles in my chest. Not peace exactly, but resolve. Later that morning, the team gathers in Grandpa's study. Aaron with legal folders, Marcus with financial projections, Evelyn with summit operations reports. I take Grandpa's seat at the head of the table, no longer feeling like an imposter. We need comprehensive plans, I tell them, not just defending against their attacks, but building something sustainable. I've prepared injunctions against further legal harassment. Aaron begins sliding documents across the polished surface. Marcus taps his tablet. I've secured the accounts and investments with additional verification protocols. Summit's employee meeting went well, Evelyn reports. Once they understood your commitment to maintaining operations and jobs, morale stabilized. We're not just defending, I say, echoing Grandpa's steady voice in my memory. We're building. A soft knock interrupts. June enters carrying a dusty cardboard box. Found this in the attic storage. Thought you should see it. The box label in Grandma's neat handwriting reads simply, in case of Gregory. Inside lie decades of meticulously organized materials, letters, recorded conversations, financial records dated and cataloged with my grandmother's characteristic precision. At the bottom, wrapped in acid-free paper, lies a small leather-bound book. My breath catches as I gently lift it out. Is this what I think it is? I whisper. June nods, her eyes knowing. Mrs. Leah said you'd recognize it when the time came. I hold Grandpa Walter's original business ledger from 1962, the founding document of Summit Freight, containing the legal framework that would make challenging the will nearly impossible. Our meeting adjourns with new determination. For the first time since the inheritance bombshell, I feel not just Grandpa's backbone but my own. A week later, I am preparing to defend what's legally mine and protect my grandparents' legacy. I sit at Grandpa Walter's antique oak desk, running my fingers over the worn edges where his hands rested for decades. The leather chair still holds the impression of his body, a physical memory that comforts me as I lift the phone receiver for what feels like the 100th call today. Mr. Delgado. Yes, this is Hadley Martin. I appreciate you taking my call. I straighten my posture, channeling Grandpa's quiet confidence. I'd like to discuss the expansion of the profit-sharing program for Summit's drivers effective immediately. The morning passes in a blur of meetings, each one another piece of the plan we've crafted. Summit Freight employees file into the study throughout the day. Weather-worn drivers with calloused hands, office staff with curious eyes, mechanics with grease-stained fingers. Each leaves with shoulders a little straighter, eyes a little brighter. My grandfather believed a company is only as strong as the people who build it daily. I tell the gathered department heads. Starting next month, every employee participates in the expanded profit-sharing program. Healthcare coverage increases to include dependents. The education fund doubles. Evelyn hands out the detailed packets while Marcus projects the financial models showing long-term sustainability. The room erupts in applause, genuine and warm, nothing like the hollow social media applause my mother craves. Dr. Reynolds. I say later, phone pressed to my ear as I review the community needs assessment spread across the desk. The foundation wants to focus first on vocational training scholarships. My grandfather believed in the dignity of skilled trades. The foundation expert on the other end speaks excitedly about implementation timelines. I jot notes in the margins of the assessment circling areas of greatest impact. My phone buzzes with a text from Marin. Gregory contacted 3 major clients directly claiming family concerns about Summit stability. I exhale slowly, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. The desk phone rings minutes later. Summit's operations manager reporting that Mom showed up at my school, cornering the principal with concerns about Hadley's state of mind. Principal Kovac didn't buy it. He assures me, said, "Your mother seemed more unstable than you ever have." A knock at the door reveals Miguel, his expression grim as he holds a sealed package. This was delivered by courier. No return address. Inside a thick folder labeled Evidence of Manipulation contains photos of me with my grandparents annotated with dates and suspicious questions, email printouts of supposed psychological assessments, medical records with highlighted passages suggesting my undue influence. I flip to the last page and burst into unexpected laughter. They've accidentally included their own threatening emails to Grandma Laya from last year, complete with Gregory's signature block and legal threats when she refused to transfer property titles. "They're getting desperate," Aaron says when I call him. Good thing we anticipated this. The next morning dawned clear and cool as I prepare for the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. Dad had planned this moment for weeks. According to our sources, a public confrontation where I'd be forced to defend myself among the business elite of Gig Harbor. Ready, Evelyn asks as we pull into the country club parking lot. Marcus adjusts his tie. "Remember, stay calm no matter what. We've got this covered." The banquet room falls quiet as we enter. Gregory's face darkens when he spots us, his body tensing like a predator preparing to pounce. I feel dozens of eyes tracking our progress to the reserve table. I've barely taken my seat when Dad approaches, his voice pitched to Carrie. There she is, the girl who's destroying our family legacy. Walter would be ashamed of what you've done to Summit Freight. Before I can respond, Chamber President Jack Wilson stands tapping his water glass. "Actually, Gregory, we're recognizing Summit Freight today for 40 years of business integrity and community service. Walter Monroe established this award, and we're honored to present it to his chosen successor." The room erupts in applause as Jack gestures for me to join him at the podium. My legs feel wooden as I rise, acutely aware of Dad's reining face and Mom's frozen smile. My grandparents built Summit Freight on 2 foundations, I say, accepting the Crystal Award: excellence in service and investment in people. Their legacy isn't measured in dollars, but in lives improved. The standing ovation washes over me in waves. Former drivers share stories of Grandpa helping them through tough times. Charity directors praise Grandma's quiet generosity. The community college president announces the new vocational scholarship program funded by the Monroe Foundation. Later, Aaron's press release detailing Summit's employee protections makes the evening news alongside statements from June and Miguel about my parents' treatment of my grandparents in their final years. The effects ripple through town like stones dropped in still water. Gregory's business partners request distance. Mom's social circle excludes her from fundraising galas. Cole's startup investors withdraw after learning of the pattern of financial manipulation. The country club board puts their membership under review. I refuse every interview request, every opportunity to criticize them publicly. We focus on building, not tearing down. I tell Miguel when he brings me the latest invitation from a morning show. The first crack appears. 3 nights later. My phone rings at 11:36 p.m. Mom's ringtone. "Hadley," she sobs, voice thick with what sounds like genuine emotion. "This isn't what I wanted. You have to believe me." I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. "Your father," she begins, then stops. I never meant for things to go this far. The second crack forms in a text from Cole the next morning. "Dad's losing it. I didn't know about the loans he took in my name. Can we talk just us?" Gregory's attorney calls Aaron the next day requesting a meeting without Gregory present. "They're imploding," Aaron tells me afterward. "Their united front is crumbling." That night I sit on the porch swing where Grandma and Grandpa spent countless evenings, my journal open on my lap. The pen hovers over the blank page before finally touching down. Victory feels hollow when it's family. But what's the alternative? Surrender the legacy they entrusted to me, allow the exploitation they fought to prevent. The breeze carries the scent of Grandma's roses planted decades ago but still blooming faithfully each year. Standing your ground doesn't always feel triumphant, but sometimes it's the only way to honor what matters most. A week later, I called my parents for the final confrontation. I position Walter's antique pocket watch on the polished conference table, a silent timekeeper for today's showdown, the grandfather. Clock in the foyer chimes 10 as car doors slam outside. "They're here." "Ready?" Aaron asks, straightening his tie. I nod, smoothing Grandmother Leia's scarf between my fingers. "As ready as I'll ever be." Miguel opens the front door, his face professionally neutral, as he escorts my family into the home they tried to strip bare, while Grandma and Grandpa were still warm in their graves. Dad strides in first confidence, faltering only when he spots Judge Ella Carter at the table. Mom follows, her camera-ready smile freezing when she notices Daniel Brooks, former police chief, and Grandpa's fishing buddy standing near the window. "What is this?" Dad demands, stopping short. "We agreed to a family meeting, not a public tribunal." "We agreed to mediation," I correct him. "These are the mediators I've selected." Cole slips in last eyes, darting between our parents and me, tugging at his collar. For a fleeting moment, our eyes meet, and like shame, flickers across his face. Mom glides toward me, arms outstretched. "Darling, surely we can speak privately first. Family matters should stay within. Family matters should involve actual family." I interrupt, my voice steadier than my racing heart. "Please sit down." Dad's face darkens to a dangerous crimson. "I refuse to participate in this circus. Either clear the room or we're leaving. We proceed with transparency or not at all," I say, gesturing to the chairs. "Your choice." After a tense standoff, they sit. Aaron slides folders in front of each person with practiced precision. "Exhibit A," he announces, tapping his laptop. The television screen on the wall illuminates with security footage. Walter and Leia Monroe's home. The evening after the funeral. The video shows Dad and Cole loading paintings into Dad's SUV under cover of darkness. Mom can be seen carefully wrapping silver candlesticks in her scarf. Cole shifts uncomfortably. Mom's hand flies to her throat. "Family. Heirlooms we were safeguarding," Dad says dismissively, but his voice lacks conviction. "Exhibit B." Aaron clicks forward. Financial records appear, each one highlighting unpaid loans to Dad's failed ventures, totaling over $4 million. Exhibit C. Aaron continues methodically through each damning piece of evidence. Mom's attempt to transfer property deeds while Grandma was hospitalized. Cole's string of defaulted startup investments. recorded phone conversations plotting asset division before Grandpa had even passed. With each revelation, Dad's rage builds visibly. His knuckles whiten around the folder edges. Mom's carefully constructed victim persona crumbles, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Cole stares at the table, shoulders hunched. Judge Carter makes notes without expression. Daniel shifts slightly closer to Dad when his breathing becomes dangerously rapid. Finally, Aaron opens Grandma's leather journal. In Laya, Monroe's own words dated the 14th of June last year, Gregory demanded another $100,000 today. When I reminded him of the previous unpaid loans, he suggested we wouldn't want Cole to know about certain family matters. I recognize the threat. Walter and I have decided Hadley is our only hope for preserving what we've built. The room falls silent, except for Mom's quiet sobbing. You manipulated them, Dad accuses, his voice trembling with fury. You turned them against us. No, I reply. My calm surprising even me. Your own actions are speaking for themselves. I slide a document forward. This is my offer. A small trust fund for each of you, conditional upon returning all items taken from this house and ceasing all communication attempts with me or anyone associated with Summit Freight or the Monroe Foundation. Dad laughs bitterly. Or what? Or I press charges for theft, elder abuse, and attempted fraud. I answer, all documented in triplicate and witnessed by a sitting judge and former chief of police. You've turned everyone against us. Dad explodes, slamming his fist on the table. No, Dad, I say, meeting his eyes directly. Your own actions have done that all by themselves. The grandfather clock ticks loudly in the silence that follows. 10 minutes pass before Dad snatches the pen Aaron offers. The scratching of signatures feels like closing a book. As they leave, Cole hesitates at the doorway, looking back with a nice expression I can't quite read. For a moment, I think he might stay, might choose differently. Then Dad barks his name, and he follows them out. When the door closes, I exhale shakily. Aaron squeezes my shoulder. Judge Carter nods with approval. Daniel's weathered face breaks into a smile. Walter would be proud. He says quietly, standing your ground isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about knowing when enough is enough. I touch Grandma's scarf still wrapped around my neck. I never wanted their money, I whisper. I just wanted to be family. I know, Aaron says. That's exactly why your grandparents trusted you with everything they built. Outside engines start, car doors slam, they drive away, and something in me knows it's for the last time. I am my grandparents' legacy now. Not their money, their values, and some boundaries once set must never be crossed again. 6 months after the final confrontation, I still arrive at school by 7:30. My counseling office, a sanctuary of listening ears and steady advice. The brass nameplate, Hadley Martin Student Counselor, remains the title I cherish most despite the trust documents bearing words like executive and beneficiary. This morning, a small clipping from the business section sits on my desk. Summit Freight announced record profits under its new employee ownership model. Walter's trucks still rumble through town, but now 68 drivers have stakes in their futures. Miss Martin, my assistant pokes her head in. Your foundation guests are here. The Laya and Walter Monroe Foundation exists on paper and in $12 million of carefully allocated funding. But today marks something more tangible, our first scholarship recipients. 5 students wait nervously in the conference room, clutching acceptance packets. Their eyes widen as I explain how the vocational training fund works, full tuition living stipends, and guaranteed apprenticeships. My grandparents believed in building things that last. I tell them, now you're part of that legacy. Later, I drive the familiar road to the harbor house. The property feels different now, lighter somehow, as if the weight of secrecy has lifted. I park beside Evelyn's sensible sedan and Marcus's old Volvo. Inside the dining room table that once witnessed my family's greed now hosts a celebration. June sets out Laya's china while Miguel arranges Walter's prized chess set nearby. Remember our first meeting here, Aaron asks, helping with water glasses. You could barely speak without trembling. Hard to believe that was the same person who stared down Gregory Martin at the gates. Evelyn laughs. I run my fingers along the table's edge, remembering same house, same people, different Hadley. We toast with sparkling cider when Marcus announces the Foundation's first major project, a 3D printing laboratory for the community college's technical program. Layla and Walter would be so proud of what you've built, Miguel says, his eyes misting. That night I flip through my therapy journal, tracing the path from panic attacks to purpose. Pages filled with grief exercises give way to recipes June has taught me from Laya's collection. Notes on Walter's favorite chess openings occupy margins near pressed flowers from the cottage garden. The old cat professor finally allows me to stroke his ears as he settles on Isla's favorite chair. 6 months ago, he hissed whenever I entered the room. Progress comes in many forms. My phone buzzes with a familiar area code. Gregory's business has finally collapsed, and he needs a small bridge loan. 3 hours later, Serena emails her application for the Foundation's board of directors. Before bed, Cole texts about his newest startup. This one is different. I swear, the pattern remains unchanged. My response does too. Polite, firm refusal. On my 30th birthday, I'm surprised by a gathering at the cottage. No extravagant gifts, just thoughtful tokens. A vintage edition of my favorite book, Seeds from June's Garden, a handmade scarf. Evelyn raises her glass to choosing your family by their actions, not their blood. Aaron updates us on the permanent legal protections now in place, while Marcus outlines the Foundation's growing community impact. The following Tuesday, a sophomore sits in my office describing family pressure that echoes my past. They say I owe them, she whispers, that everything they've done was for me. I listen with understanding born from experience. When she finishes, I hand her a carefully prepared packet therapy options, legal resources, boundary-setting worksheets. Your worth isn't measured by their approval. I tell her words I needed to hear 6 months ago. At sunset, I walk the property grounds, stopping at the newly planted grove. 1 tree for each scholarship recipient. A small bench bears a simple plaque. Legacy lives through love. Laya and Walter. I open Isla's journal to its blank final pages and begin writing my own entries. Looking up at the warm glow of house lights, I feel a peace that money could never purchase. The inheritance that matters most wasn't in the bank accounts after